great to finally have you on.
Nice to see you too. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So this is thanks to the shutdown, if I'm not mistaken, right? The government shutdown that we have here. And I hear you got some stuff here to show. Is that true?
I do, yeah. So I actually just received these last week. So I went to Charlie Kirk's memorial in D.C. at the White House. And these files have been months in the making. So a lot of people were like, is this just happening right now because of the Trump-Putin Budapest talks? But what people don't realize is right as soon as I got the task force, I connected with an individual by the name of Jefferson Morley. So he would be a subject matter expert on the Kennedy assassination. And he made me aware of these documents as well as a witness that we had in our testimony. So I basically was like, I'm going to try to get these documents. In the 90s, Congress had tried to obtain them and ultimately failed. The Russian government denied access to them. And so I picked up the phone and called my staff, told them to get a meeting set up with the ambassador to Russia. And it's crazy when you pick up the phone, you ask for things, we ended up getting those files. And they had been promised around the fall, winter time frame, and they did deliver on that. So
this is the whole story about the old USSR and JFK, the files. So what have you learned from it so far?
Well, so there's about 380 pages. And so we did our rough translation through ChatGPT. But the thing is that there's a lot that, as you know, I assume you're bilingual. There's a lot that can be lost in translation. And so we have experts that are going through it right now to get even just the smallest inclinations that we might have missed. But ultimately, it's actually confirming a lot of what we already knew and kind of filling in the mosaic that's been created by these declassified files. A lot of people are like, why do you care so much about going back and rehashing or opening up the Kennedy files? And the thing is that up until really President Trump took office and then did the final executive order, and up until the CIA followed through with it, which we know for 60 years the CIA hadn't until Director Radcliffe, ultimately the people didn't actually know what happened. So the American people had this feeling that the government was lying to them. And I would say that if you're looking at historically kind of the way and really where the distrust starts in this country, it's when Kennedy's assassinated. Shortly thereafter, you have the assassination of Dr. King and then of RFK. And the thing is that what we know now for a fact is that the CIA did intentionally lie to Congress, did intentionally try to stop the investigations or prevent evidence from coming out. The Warren Commission.
This was previous to this.
This is previous to this, and then I'll tell you, but you have to know the backstory to kind of know some files.
Yeah.
So what we also know is that the Warren Commission, which was set up by Congress to actually investigate and provide the American people transparency, actually, in my opinion, was a sham committee, and they're pushing a narrative to kind of wrap this up nicely, put it away, and not talk about it anymore. And that's because, in my opinion, the U.S. government was implicated in the assassination of Kennedy. We have witness testimony that proves Kennedy was shot from both the front and behind, meaning that there were multiple shooters. Also, the fact that you actually have documentation from an individual by the name of George Joanides that the CIA declassified that proved that he had lied to Congress. He was actually embedded as the liaison to the CIA. So there's a lot there that implicates potentially a small faction within the CIA operating rogue and responsible for the assassination. So what this does is it fills in the questions that we had in this mosaic of, well, what was the Soviets' perspective? And what we found out is that people knew that Kennedy did not want war, right? He was doing everything that he could to prevent a nuclear arms exchange. But what a lot of people don't know is how close he was to the then Soviet president. And so after the assassination took place, the president ultimately decided to do his own investigation to really see what happened and presented these findings to the U.S. government at the funeral for Kennedy. And we never got those declassified files because I believe that whoever got those documents destroyed them. And so ultimately, when they transferred over these files, a lot of them contained wires directly from the embassy to Moscow talking about what was happening. They were scared to pieces that the United States was going to use this as a means of essentially starting a kinetic fight with Russia, which thank goodness they didn't. However, it's interesting because this is being declassified now, of which we didn't have any idea that the Putin-Trump talks would be happening or Budapest or any of that. But it's interesting because Trump, in a way, is continuing and almost finalizing Kennedy's legacy for peace. And you see that because everything that he's saying right now with not wanting to escalate the war between Russia and Ukraine, continuously calling for those talks for the first time since the 90s, really being a president that's picking up the phone and trying to engage in open dialogue and potentially even talking about a trade deal with Russia. And that's really ultimately what Kennedy was also doing. So it's very interesting that this is coming out at this point in time. But there's going to be an article dropping soon on this.
There's going to be an article dropping soon on this. So is this do we have a clue or an idea of who it was that got rid of it? Is there any speculation on who could have been?
So what I was told by the ambassador, and by the way, you should just like take a look at these. So these are not the translated. That's directly as I got them from the embassy. And there's only 2 other copies that exist. One was given to Representative Burleson and one was given to Representative Ogles as a thank you for being one of the first 3 members of Congress to meet with the Russians since the 90s. So I put together the meeting. But just to put it in perspective, and I'll answer your question in a second, Congress is so broken that our first and foremost job should be continuing open dialogue with people to avoid war, right? And since the 90s, they have not really had much interaction with members of Congress. And then we can get into like the 2016 Russia collusion and how that really fractured foreign policy. But the point is that all of that to say that, you know, regarding who potentially would have pulled the trigger, whatever it might have been, what this shows is, I believe, you know, a potential of a relationship that could have existed. Like, check out that photo for a second that you just scrolled past. So that was supposed to be a bridge going into Russia. And of course, Kirill Dmitriev, who's a special envoy to President Putin, I'm going to be meeting with him. And he had actually posted about this. But the reason I'm doing that is because, again, our job should be first and foremost to advocate for peace.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. So this is
bridge. That's the picture right there, right, between Alaska and Russia.
Yep.
Which, by the way, I think I've heard Trump bring this up recently. That we should have.
It was a question that was brought up. I think in the Oval, they asked him about it, and I think the question was, would Elon Musk use Boring Company to do a tunnel? Which I think that if there's the potential for trade, you're talking about a multi-trillion-dollar trade deal. I think one of the few companies that actually currently sells in Russia is the Mars company. But we're talking about the ability to really decouple Russia from China when there's no reason that we need to be enemies with these people. The Cold War has been over. But I think really since Kennedy was assassinated, this boogeyman was created about Russia. And then ultimately, after really Bill Clinton got out and Bush, you see Obama didn't really have a great relationship. And then we saw the 2016 Russia collusion hoax that ultimately, permanently, I believe, fractured foreign policy with Russia because you still have half of Americans believing that Russia interfered in the election. Not to say that we shouldn't, you know, always be cautious, but at the end of the day, why would you be trying to alienate a superpower when in actuality we can be, you know, opening up trade to them?
Didn't Kissinger said like we have to, it's got to be 2 against 1. Like we have to have one of them be the enemy of the other one. So Russia or China, pick and choose one of them. It can't be them 2 against us, or all 3 on the same page. I think that's something that Kissinger said many years ago.
I haven't heard that, but if he did, I mean, I would personally say that right now we have a lot of issues at home. I would prefer not to be enemies with anyone, but I do also see the flip side where, you know, you have countries like China, who in my opinion, China is a bigger threat to the United States than Russia is. China engages in bot farms. They're brainwashing our youth. You saw what happened with TikTok, the private data mining. I mean, I would not be surprised if they had different programs to track people's potential to potentially eliminate those people in the future if they think that they're going to be a threat to the rise of China. I mean, I think it's definitely a problem. And then we're seeing the foreign funding tie where China's actively engaging in the civil unrest in this country. And we actually tracked that down to, I called them the Timu riots, but those ICE riots that you saw happening where these people were walking out with these brand new, you know, unfolded Mexican flags. Well, why was it not a Honduran flag? Or, you know, why is it specifically Mexico? And it's because the largest voting minority in this country right now, starting in 2016 onward, is Hispanic Americans of Mexican descent. So they tried to take that one issue instead of the George Floyd riots of, you know, the previous President Trump term. It's now the ICE riots. Well, they don't really give a crap about these immigrants. If they did, they wouldn't want the human trafficking and the open borders and the exploitation of corporation and all that. But it gets into a very big issue when you have these billionaires that are foreign agents, not registered, funding these riots that are getting violent. And then obviously it goes into even what happened with the armed queers of Salt Lake City. They were also funded by Neville Singham, who is funding these ICE riots. And we know that potentially they're being investigated for having connection to the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
There's a lot to be unpacked there. It's a lot of different things.
We can go into it.
And I want to. Yeah. I really want to. But by the way, for the audience, I just want to share with them. Everything here is in Russian, okay? So this is all Russian written with dates, November 23rd, 1963, November 25th. And then it takes stuff to 1990, 1995, 1973. So have you guys already gone through this? Like, have you gotten a summary of what's in it?
I've done a summary loosely on ChatGPT, and a lot of these are cable. So when you actually run it through the program, it compresses down a lot more. And then there's also some handwritten notes that we knew existed from Jacqueline Kennedy to the president of Russia, and then also from Lee Harvey Oswald, which is interesting, and a story will be coming out about that note specifically because Lee Harvey Oswald had written the Russian government that his wife had been, and I want to be correct in phrasing this, but from my understanding, he had written the Russian government that his wife had been recruited and approached or attempted to be recruited by the FBI. And we know historically that the FBI and the CIA had always denied having connection to Lee Harvey Oswald, but we see that that wasn't necessarily the case. And so if you want to really ask me about Lee Harvey Oswald, I mean, even in what I've looked through in the translations, they thought that Lee Harvey Oswald was not mentally stable or capable of carrying out the assassination in the way that they had painted him out to be. I think it's very possible that Lee Harvey Oswald was a patsy and that he was framed, and I think that he was murdered because of that framing.
So to get your, by the way, you continue here. There's letters to other people. There's a caller. I'm trying to see who this caller person is.
Yeah, it's a fascinating. We actually uploaded these directly, and then I got chirped at. They're like, "How do you know that this isn't Russian disinformation?" And I was like, "Well, that's where we have our experts who are both, Democrats and Republicans looking through this."
Yeah.
And we actually reached out to a few outlets because there is a NSC advisor to Clinton that actually went through, and he's like, "No, these are legitimate documents. These are not, propaganda." And really what it's showing us is that there was open dialogue for peace. They did not want war, and ultimately Russia was afraid of being blamed for the assassination. And then even in Russia's own findings, they actually say that it was likely American intelligence that led to the assassination of Kennedy, in addition to right-wing. And if you think about right-wing back then, it was that bloc that was, pushing the anti-communism, which, granted, communism not good, but if you think about the situation, the McCarthyism, right. If you think about the position that Kennedy was in, Kennedy was really considered a progressive in the sense that everyone surrounding him wanted war. Right after he was assassinated, LBJ went right into Vietnam. He didn't want that. He didn't want to go to war with Russia, but he was also greatly outnumbered within his own cabinet. And in the sense that he had no allies, I think that he was easy to pick off.
Yeah, I mean, I don't trust Lyndon Johnson for nothing.
Oh no, he was like the one that benefited the most from his assassination.
Benefited the most, and the more and more you read about the guy was a full-on scumbag.
He was a dirty guy.
He was a dirty guy when you hear, and the benefiting, all that others, how quickly it's like, yes, Jackie's looking like, what are we doing? Yeah, we got to move. We got to move. I'm the president now, and they couldn't stand the whole Catholic, all the stuff that was going on at that time. They were worried that the Kennedy family was going to be running it for many years. And by the way, as a case study, the Kennedy last name and the Trump, that's a very close case study.
Yeah, they're like both political dynasties. Yeah.
Both political dynasties. Trump's kids are young. Eric, Ivanka, you got Don, and you got Barron. This could be
Barron's too. That guy's like...
He's one of a kind.
Yeah, he's already doing pretty good for himself.
He's already doing very good. He's funny. He's witty. He's intense. It's funny because I had Eric Trump on, and there's a clip where Barron at the inauguration walks up to Biden and he whispers something in his ears. And everybody thinks he says, "It's on," or something like that, right? And Eric says, "Man, let me check with Barron to see what it says." And apparently he says, "It's an honor." He didn't say "it's on." And Eric says,
he's a very well-raised kid.
He's a very well-raised kid. I agree. After 2 years of working on this, we have finally pulled it off. And let me tell you what it is. Every time we do the Vol Conference, if you've attended, you know this. I stand up and I speak for probably 45 hours is what I do at the Vol Conference. And I love it. I love being around the guys. I love it. But I wear the Ferragamo shoes when I do this. Or I wear some kind of dress shoes. Eventually, for the last 25 years, I've always been on stage walking around. I'm like, you know what? I'm sick and tired of it. I want a shoe that I'm comfortable wearing. And here's what I love. I don't like shoes that are so heavy. That's a dumbbell. You can use it as a weapon. I don't want that. Like the Xenia, you carry it. I have so many of them, but they're so heavy. Like you can literally curl the Xenia down, the shoes, and you'll get a pump within 30 reps. And I wanted the combination of the Hoka, the On Cloud, the Super Foam, because there's a big thing going on right now with the Super Foam where the bottom of the shoe, you wear it. You know which ones I'm talking about, the On Cloud or the Hokas, right? They're so comfortable. And I said, what if we take luxury and then combine it with the super comfort? What would that look like? And let's build it in Italy. So what do? We went to Italy. We designed the shoe in Florida. We made the shoe in Italy in five of the factories. We went back and forth, God knows how many times. And by the way, The shoes we're about to launch and introduce to you right now, where you're going to see the video for the first time, I've been wearing those shoes for the last 22 days straight. I'm wearing them right now. I literally wear it with suits. I wore it yesterday when we went to lunch. I wear it every single day. It's the most comfortable shoes I have, yet it's authentic Italian leather. Rob, if you don't mind playing the video, go for it. Here's the video of the latest shoe, the FLBs. When we set out to create a shoe that blends comfort, function, and luxury, we had the choice to make it fast. We had the choice to make it cheap. We chose neither. Instead, we chose Tuscanero. We chose true Italian craftsmanship, each pair touched by 50 skilled hands. We chose patience, spending 2 years perfecting every detail, and we chose the finest quality at every step. Introducing the Future Looks Bright collection. Not rushed, not disposable, not ordinary. Rather, intentional, luxurious, timeless. Boom. There you go. Designed in Florida, 100% made in Italy. 50 hands touch each shoe that was made. And here's what's unique about it. I want to kind of show this to everybody that knows this. And I've worn pretty much every one of these shoes. So if you compare this, the Italian leather, of course, it's made in Italy. It's not assembled, made in China, assembled in Italy, 100% made in Italy, assembled in Italy. It's FLBs, Berlutis, which are $18.40, Ferragamos are $8.95, Zennias are $11.90, and Gucci's are $9.50. Leather premium lining, all of them except for Gucci. Laceless feature, it's the FLBs, the Berlutis, you have laces, Ferragamos laceless, and then you have also the Zennias, and then the Gucci's have the laces. I don't want to wake up in the morning, put laces on. I want to get out the house. Took me 3 seconds to put my shoes on today. Craftsman, 5 different Italian factories all made this shoe. Berlutis are the same as us, as well as FLB. But the only shoe, these trainers, the only one in the world today, according to the factories that told me this in Italy, that has the super foam, the only one that has the same super foam used in the On Clouds and the Hokas, it's the FLBs, and they're officially out, and you can place the order. Here's a challenge. We only have 1,000 of these pairs. And when you say 1,000 of these pairs, they start from size, I believe, is it 8? It goes 8, 9, 10, 10 and a half, 11, 11 and a half, 12, 13. Those are the sizes that we have. And the shoes that you can get today, the colors, you have access to, Rob, if you can go back there, you can have access to those browns, which is absolutely beautiful. And by the way, the brown on the bottom, the stitching on the side is a left stitching. If you can change the picture, and on the bottom it says the future looks bright. Look at the white lines on the side. It's beautiful. The only ones we have right now that you can get sent out today are the black and the browns. If you do want the white to pre-order, I would highly recommend you do so. They're going to come out the second week of December. So the white and the navy blue comes out the second week of December. The browns and the blacks are available. If you believe the future looks bright as much as we do, go place the order. There's nothing like sitting in the boardroom with your trainers and you put your feet over your knee and people look at the bottom of your shoe and it says future looks bright. That's how you get deals done. All right, so they're out. I'm excited to announce it, and I'm very happy for people to go sport it. When you get them, take pictures, send it our way. We're going to show all these shoes, all the pictures that are being taken. I already got a bunch of them sent to me on Instagram. Go to vtmerch.com, place your order. It's all over the website. Maybe buy it for your husband, buy it for your brother, buy it for your coworkers, buy it for your best salespeople if you want to let them know the future looks bright. If you enjoyed this video, you want to watch more videos like this, click here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click here.